It's prime time on the East Coast for a Saturday night and the final practice session of the weekend before we race tomorrow on NBC. Next to last race of the 2023 season, a champion could be crowned. Welcome back to Portland International Raceway for the warm-up or final practice. No morning warm-up tomorrow, so this is it to get set. 27 cars tomorrow in the BITNILE.com Grand Prix of Portland. Kevin Lee, Townsend Bell, Dylan Welch on pit lane for this 30-minute warm-up session. When we came here this morning, it was beautifully comfortable, 64 degrees. It has heated up. 91 is the current temperature for this last session.
And that's a scuff lap just out and in on sticker blacks. Looks like he might do it again here to get his tires ready, Dylan, for what is a very difficult turn one straight out of the pits. I like this move.
Yeah, and Graham is going to be one of, I think probably a lot of cars are going to try and learn as much as they can about what the Reds are going to do. But it's been interesting, you know, you mentioned the weather. Each session today, the weather conditions have been different. It's gotten hotter throughout the day, and it was even a little bit different yesterday. So I think that is why a lot of these teams still truly don't know what tire compound is the best or the preferred compound to use. I've heard some teams that are pretty confident it's going to be a black race, and there's other teams that feel like the Reds are going to be better. So for Ray Hall and Lundgaard, for the Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan group, they're going to kind of split things up here. The plan is to have Christian Lundgaard run primarily on the black tires here just to learn a little bit more about that. But for Ray Hall, he's been pretty adamant all weekend. The weakness of their race car has been the red tire balance. So Graham said, we're going to run as long as we can here once we get the red tires on. If they last 20 minutes, that's about 20 laps in the race. So we'll at least have a data point there and just try and get the race car a little bit better as well for Ray Hall and see if he can hold on to that pole position, track position all day tomorrow.
All right, on the out lap, we already have a little bit of drama going on, or at least a little bit of a dust up. I want to go back for just a moment ago and see what we caught between the 77 of Callum Ilott and the 7 of Alexander Rossi as they're exiting pit lane.
On board here with Rossi. A little bit of a squeeze there. I'm going to put that, excuse me, a little bit more on Rossi because, listen, start of a session, warm up, everybody launches at the same time. But whatever. No harm, no foul. Looks like Rossi's car is all right. Just getting aggressive as it looks like Santino Ferrucci is stalled on pit lane. The AJ Foyt crew rolling him back. Callum Ilott had a touch with Roman Grosjean earlier today as well. Grosjean had a moment over in turn 6 and Callum went to the outside and they wheel banged, sent Callum off the track.
And Grosjean, I walked up as he was explaining that. He said, I just didn't see Ilott in that situation. He'll be right on board with Roman Grosjean in the Auto Nation on board. Qualified 15th today. This has not been one of his best tracks in 2 previous starts. Trying to get a result here this weekend, trying to finish the season with momentum.
And Grosjean was fired up. You know, he calls himself the Phoenix, but for different reasons. Today it was high temperature, high temper after qualifying, furious with his race team on the timing of when they sent him. Felt like he went right into traffic and he was barking at the team not holding back, barking right back at him. Just a lot of frustration all around.
And I don't know if he's even necessarily yelling at the team. And sometimes aren't you just venting?
It's a little both. I mean,
yeah.
You can see the team's very clearly yelling right back at him.
Yeah,
so
okay, that's not venting.
they're going at each other a little bit. It's been a long, tough, and I think largely disappointing season for Grosjean, who started off so strong.
Yeah.
Pole positions, thought he had the win. I mean, driving for the win in St. Pete. It all went south with McLaughlin down there and almost got into the back of, who was that? Was that Castroneves coming to the box?
That was
That was a surprise.
And I noticed this just a moment ago. We saw cars, I think, on purpose wanting to find the path through there, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Get used to it. Because tomorrow, there's a high probability here of drama in turn 1 through the years, and you can see the A-frame styrofoam NTT IndyCar Series signs, which are also anchored with water bags, and then a bunch of rather confusing looking arrows, frankly, if I'm a racing driver approaching that. It's not entirely clear. I think there's two ways through that, depending on if you're far outside or take a last-second avoiding move.
But there's still a better path, if we go back through the history of this event, to get through the chicane, right? We saw Kyle Milot exiting the pit box with Alexander Rossi at the start of this session. And let's see what else we found with the 77, who has his best start of the season coming up tomorrow after qualifying 8th. He's dropping tires here. That is a bumpy ride, I would presume, through there.
Very bumpy and not that great for the bottom of the race car, but seen a lot of that. That drop, as we talked about, the drop from the edge of the outside of the exit curve down to the dirt. It's big there. It's also big down here in turn 11.
So we talked about an issue for Felix Rosenqvist, not of his own making in qualifying, that kept him from having a chance to advance to the Firestone Fast 6. And also in round 2, Joseph Newgarden. This was surprising, Townsend. This was basically starting the first push lap on the lesser tire.
Yeah, this is just a banker lap, and you know, I gotta wonder when you're running the black tire banker lap, if you're just that much more relaxed because you haven't fully amped up for that red new tire lap, and if it just contributed a bit to a loss of focus right there. But no question, a frustrating moment for Joseph not to have a chance to go out and try to match or beat what his teammate Scott McLaughlin was able to do, qualifying second. Instead, Newgarden, where's he going to start?
12th.
Yeah.
And no excuses when I talked to him after that. He said, no, I made a mistake. It happens, and it does happen.
Looks like the car's working just fine. P9 right now, running the harder black tire. What does McLaughlin have on? He's running the reds. So McLaughlin told me that he would run the reds, like I think most of the reds that are being run right now. Probably all of them are the set that you were allowed to use in practice 1 but couldn't use elsewhere except in the warm-up. So we'll be watching the lap times here. Ericsson quickest right now on the reds at a 59.6, but his last time 1 minute 0.9 for Marcus Ericsson. So we'll be curious, how does that compare to the black tire pace of, say, somebody like Scott Dixon, who's 0.8 faster than his teammate on the harder black tire.
And here's the championship leader, plus 74. And one of the potential points that Scott Dixon could have scored is not going to be scored. So now it's a maximum of 53 points available this weekend, when Dixon did not win the pole, nor Palou as well. And the number, so obviously, even if Dixon wins, Palou would wrap up the championship and finishes third. Let's look at it another way. We're not going to go through all the scenarios, but if Dixon does not win, but still does well, finishes second, Palou only needs to finish 8th. And I think it's like averaging 12th or so, 13th in the 2 races. So he is very much in control. Well, the Rahal Letterman Lanigan cars are fast again here this weekend. Dylan told us at the top that they have the ability to try different tire strategies in this session. What are you seeing?
Well, let's have Christian tell us, in fact, what he's seeing and feeling behind the wheel of the race car.
How's the balance? To be honest, a little bit all over the place, but it's understeering.
And so that's a direction that they haven't really felt all weekend. They've been really happy with the race car, and even on the alternate tires. Christian said earlier in the weekend that they didn't fall off. They just kind of felt like they got slower. So this is kind of the first balance issue that they've had all weekend.
Almost see like Christian Lundgaard here has a little bit of an alignment issue. He's going down the straightaway, but you look at his hands, it's not quite level, right hand down right there. So don't know if he's knocked it out of tow a little bit, or it just wasn't, the steering wheel wasn't level. But that's quite a dramatic right hand down situation I was watching on both straights. It seems like things have mellowed out, the speed's there, and he knows the results will come as Marcus Ericsson comes in, reds come off, blacks go on.
Love behind the back toss. And let's see what happened to Ericsson just a moment ago going into turn 1. Ooh. So does he follow the proper path? That would be a no-no in the race, correct? Now what happens
Well, I don't think that's a no-no as much as apparently you get a drive-through penalty for that, so he's going to have to make a hard left to get back over. But if you're coming in locked up, how could that be a drive-through penalty?
Well, I don't know how you could get back to the left once you've passed it. What do you do?
Yeah.
So let's make a note.
Yeah.
Let's ask race. We've talked with race control. What happens if they all crash?
Yes. Let's
how
circle
they
that because
how they order. But what happens if someone just takes the shortcut and does not gain an advantage in the race?
Yeah, it's no different than locking up and going off in the dirt on the backside over in turn 6 and rejoining.
Excursion in turn 1, so let's just go and do it now. We've got 8 minutes to go.
So I think they're telling him a drive-through. I don't know about that.
This could be a story in the race tomorrow because a second car, whoa, that is a fucking Bronco on the DHL Andretti Honda for Romain Grosjean, who also has been ordered to serve a drive-through for not following the proper path. So let's see, does he have much of an option to get back? Could he have taken a hard left there going around those barriers?
He never would have made it. He got a big old kicker off that Bavarian sausage at the second apex at turn 2, and I mean there's no way you're going to be able to make that through. So I mean that is a massive penalty compared to dropping wheels anywhere else on the track. So
it's a race killer.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Well, just looking at the leaderboard, want to give some props to the Meyer Shank Racing boys. Elio Castroneves, you see there, and Tom Blomqvist, who qualified 22nd and 27th, respectively. Much better than that here. Elio is 9th and Blomqvist is 11th. So it's been a battle this weekend just to try to get the handling exactly where they want it as well. So a nice improvement here in this final practice session. Was speaking with Blomqvist earlier, too, and Townsend, you know just how difficult these cars are to drive. Tom's, grown up and come through the racing ladder with cars that have power steering and maybe are frankly a little bit less physical to drive. And he said that's been the biggest challenge for me this weekend and at Toronto is just staying up in front of the car. He says, I feel like I'm behind the car, that I can't really get up on the wheel and attack it because they're just hard to drive. So that's part of the adjustment coming over here and racing full time like he will be next year, is just the physicality of being able to muscle these cars around the racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, I think good news is for Blomqvist right now, he's done 16 laps in warm-up. These are the kind of race situation, full fuel. He's 11th quick right now, running on the softer reds. And the more he does it, the more his body is going to get accustomed to it. And just looking at his steering wheel right now, it's a little tough with the black gloves. But he does have the molded grips on the steering wheel, which helps your hands a little bit. And then short of that, the only way the team can help him is taking some caster out of the front end geometry, but that comes with some mechanical grip sacrifice. So it's just something that Tom's going to have to adjust to. He's going to have to change his training regimen. This is more training for football than basketball, to use that analogy. IndyCar is more of a contact sport than sports car racing or Formula One in a lot of ways. These are beefy, strong, robust open-wheel cars that can take side-to-side contact more than some of the other categories, and no power steering. Got to earn it behind the wheel.
Well, Scott Dixon needs a win again tomorrow, which would be a third in a row, but he had a moment just a little bit ago. Let's see if there was a possibility of peril for the PNC Bank Honda. How close do you like it? Whoa.
So Dixon has given everybody a lesson on how to save fuel, how to stay out of trouble, and right there, master class on how close you can get to the Armco at the apex of turn 1. That was simply perfect.
He's fine. Yeah. And I understand Graham sat the last 5 minutes of this session, serving a penalty for turning an extra lap in one of the qualifying sessions.
Yeah, I'll go back to what I just said. I think this will be a game time decision, meaning in the game. They will be reading, these teams will be reading and figuring out what their degradation looks like, watching their lap times, and then making their bet. Do we run long on that first stint or pit around lap 15, 16 and go to our preferred tire for the balance of the race? As you see the rest of the top 20.
Tom Blomqvist stands out there looking to continue to learn in his second IndyCar weekend. He wants to see more than a few corners tomorrow. Desperately needs to get through that chicane to start that race.